Hello once more, my any friends. Can't beat that. It's been a while since I uploaded my last video, but fear not, I remain very much alive and in good spirits, still as intent on assisting you in fending off the foul demon of chat reporting in every way that I can. And I did not waste any time in this endeavor. Today, I want to demonstrate one of the new, shiny features of no chat reports, chat encryption. Probably one of the most suggested ideas in this channel's comments. Where all else fails, it can protect both your privacy and your ability to play multiplayer without fear of being falsely banned. So let's jump right into it. To begin using encryption, you need no chat reports mod installed on your client. Once that is arranged, a new button will be added to the chat screen, which allows you to toggle and configure encryption. When you click on it for the first time, you'll see this warning, to which we will most certainly return. For now, let's just click proceed and end up in encryption settings screen. Let's take a look at this button first, which lets you select specific encryption algorithm from a variety of options. Right now, those options are limited to Advanced Encryption Standard in few modes of operation, as well as Caesar, which is only really there because it was so easy to implement. It's also probably the most intuitive option, so let's use it as a test subject to see what this encryption saying is all about. Next, we have to pick encryption key. In the case of Caesar, that is simply an integer in range from 1 to 1024, which will determine the amount of positions by which every character in the message will be shifted. Unlike classical Caesar though, we're not shifting them by alphabet, but rather by Unicode table. This makes sure that whatever language or symbols you're using, it's still going to be encryption compatible. Let's go with 13 in our case. At this point we can click done, which saves our configuration, and then left click on encryption button in chat screen to actually enable encryption. Now let's send something into the chat, and oh, look, it's an encrypted message. Well, it might not look super encrypted to us, but that is only because our client already knows how to decrypt it. If we check server console real quick, this is what the server actually sees, and what all players without encryption enabled and configured respectively will see too. You can see this non-decrypted message yourself if you hover over this fancy icon right next to it in chat screen. But security of Caesar as a cipher is basically non-existent, so let's try something more solid. Say an industry standard IS encryption. There's 3 modes of operation you can choose from, which offer varying degrees of security. If you have no idea what they mean and don't know which one to choose, just stick with the default CFB8 mode. Once again, we have to pick encryption key, which in the case of this algorithm is 128 bits of base64 encoded data. Probably not what you can easily come up with yourself. So this is where this little dice button comes in handy, as it lets you generate random valid encryption key. If you're not happy with random keys, you can use passphrase field instead, wherein you can enter any combination of symbols from which encryption key will be derived. Let's save that and try to send the message again. Yeah, that's more like it. Now it's just a matter of communicating the key or passphrase to all your friends that you intend to exchange encrypted messages with, and of course making sure that you are all using the same algorithm. Now let's take a look at some of the more advanced features. If you uncheck Encrypt Public Messages box, then messages you send normally will not in fact be encrypted. However, mod will still encrypt messages sent via certain commands, like /msg for instance. This can be useful on servers where you only plan to encrypt your private correspondence without touching public chat. Specific commands that are subject to encryption can be configured manually by editing ncr encryption.json file inside no chat reports folder, inside config folder, inside .minecraft folder. Most options in this file simply reflect what we can configure in-game. We need encryptable commands option, which contains the list of, well, encryptable commands. Each entry in this list consists of command name followed by a colon and a number of command arguments that should be excluded from encryption. In case of /msg command, for instance, there is one argument preceding chat message itself, which is the name of the player we are sending the message to. Obviously we don't want to encrypt that, so excluded arguments are set to 1 for this specific command. You can add any commands or aliases here, including ones from plugins. They don't have to all exist on every server you log into, so feel free to add any amount of just-in-case commands if you feel like. The only other option in this file that cannot be tweaked from in-game is Show Encryption button, which allows you to disable said button from being added to chat screen if set to false. Notice that this will not automatically disable encryption if it was enabled previously or is configured manually through this file. In principle, this is everything you need to know to actually be able to use encryption. However, there's a lot to be said in terms of recommendations on how to do it right, what threats it is effective against, and cases where you probably shouldn't do it. So let's discuss that next. You might have noticed that if you simply leave encryption key field empty, it defaults to a hard-coded key that can just as well be used for encryption without generating your own. However, that is not recommended, because that default key is really not a secret to anyone, so anyone intent enough on deciphering your messages will be able to do so. Now, whether Mojang will bother going through this process is an open question, so depending on your threat model and assumptions that go into it, default key might be enough. But where security is paramount, you shouldn't use it. Likewise, you probably shouldn't exchange encryption keys or passphrases via Minecraft chat where you intend to set up encryption in the first place. Use any secure external channel of communication like Discord, Telegram, Signal, whatever else people use these days. Your channel of choice need not to be super private, it only needs to be sufficiently isolated from your adversaries. Speaking of benefits though, one major benefit of employing encryption is that it allows you to combat chat reports on servers where opting out of chat signing is simply not possible. Obviously, people who don't have encryption key won't have much to show in their chat report. However, even if one of the people who has the key tries to make a report, what will end up inside it are still going to be encrypted messages, which Mojang's moderators will not be able to decipher. The reason this works is because messages are encrypted before signature is generated for them. So if someone tries to modify their client such that messages are decrypted before being reported, it will automatically invalidate signatures for those messages because signatures were generated specifically against their encrypted versions. The server itself, on the other hand, will recognize your encrypted messages as having valid signatures, so it will happily relay them around, at least by default. And now it might seem like a good idea to go and encrypt everything everywhere, but alas it is not. While the server itself will not stop you from exchanging encrypted messages, human moderation of that server might very well do. They can easily mute or ban you for spamming unreadable mess in public chat, or even specifically for trying to encrypt your messages. After all, it might be quite hard to break encryption, but recognizing that such is employed is anything but. Not all servers are alike though. On some, admins might be perfectly fine with encryption, on others not so much. Whether it will be a good idea to use it in any one of the cases is for you to evaluate. Just be informed of the risks. On another hand, if you're playing on your own private server with a few of your friends, then it's much easier to install a mod or plugin on the server itself to prevent chat reports. One of the two use cases that remain is encrypting private messages, and that actually need not to be constrained to servers that live under the looming shadow of chat reporting. You can use it wherever you want to make sure that nobody is snooping on your private correspondence. Encrypting just private messages does not guarantee that no action will be taken by server moderation, but the fact of such action, if it occurs, will reveal to you that private communications on that server are in fact directly and rigorously monitored, in which case you probably shouldn't exchange private messages there in the first place. The other use case is realms, and boy is that a big one. The problem there is that even if realm owner would like to disable chat reports, there is no way to do so. Even if somehow you could exchange unsigned messages on realms, it would matter not, because those messages are processed and logged by servers which Mojang own and can therefore trust. Under such circumstances, advantages of encryption against chat reporting are much more prominent and applicable. But there is an even greater menace on realms, one that can inflict ban upon you even if nobody ever reports you, and encryption might just be your only hope in confronting it. Actually, there's an interesting story surrounding realms. Just over a month ago, two cases have surfaced where people playing Java Edition claimed to be banned for a period of few days, showing photos and video recordings of their computer screens as a proof. This might not sound like a big deal, but until that point there were no known bans on Java, false or otherwise. I was able to reach out to one of those people, British Empire Ball, and with his collaboration I was able to confirm that indeed his account was banned. In fact, there's a lot of important data I was able to collect after that, and I wrote a whole article about it. In case you didn't see it yet, it will be linked in the description. Initially, I attributed the fact of the ban itself to Mahjong finally starting to take action on chat reports. However, there were odd similarities with that other case. Both people have claimed that they were playing exclusively on realms in the days preceding the ban, and that it was incredibly unlikely that someone among people they played with would have reported them. A short while after that, an article by Mahjong was found, called Our Commitment to Player Safety. In truth, of course, there's no telling for how long it's been there, but this was the first time I have personally seen it, much like many other people. And here, in the proactive moderation section, we find following statement. For Bedrock and Java realms, as well as partnered Bedrock servers, we leverage an automated proactive chat filtering system. We use it to classify, filter, and escalate online harms for human review and moderation to promote safe and welcoming interactions on Minecraft games. That includes behaviors such as harassment, abuse, and hate speech. You heard it right. Here it's written in plain text that all realms chats are directly monitored in an automated manner, and if there's anything bots think looks suspicious, they promptly report it to Mahjong moderators for review. And keep in mind, if moderators decide to ban you, you will be banned from all multiplayer, not just realms. Now, surely people like Kenny TV preached the truth, and Mahjong are only using this to detect and take action against the most extreme and dangerous kinds of behavior, the kind that poses threats to society which simply cannot be ignored. Nope, not really. In the most recent examples that I know of, a person was banned for swearing on their realm with a group of friends who were all completely fine with the language used. That the realm was private nor consensus between participants did not matter to Mahjong. Of course, those are all just unnecessary contextual details that can be simply disregarded, so long as there's something that vaguely violates the guidelines when viewed in isolation. This is the exact kind of rule enforcement that we all feared when chat reporting was initially announced, and that Mahjong, along with some people who secretly collaborate with Mahjong, have promised us will never happen. So, if for whatever reason you absolutely have to play on realms, chat encryption can be an effective tool against not just chat reporting, but also automated monitoring. However, the final solution to the realms questions that I offer is to simply abandon realms. Among other things, it's voting with your wallet. Keep in mind that for Mahjong, one of the only ways to make further profit from players who already bought the game is realms subscription, and making a dip in those profits is one of the few ways we still have to make them reconsider their course of action, if we can somehow manage that. But mostly it's about owning your infrastructure. Conventional hosting services typically give you full control of your server and don't actively try to invade your privacy. Back in the day, typical way to go about hosting a Minecraft server was renting a VPS and going through the process of manually installing Java, downloading and running server jar, opening ports, most of which was done through terminal, and often daunting task for someone not very tech savvy. In a modern age, however, there's many services that specialize specifically in hosting Minecraft servers and offer you tools that make server setup incredibly simple. Alright, that's the end of that. I know I promised you a different video in my latest post, but don't worry, we'll get there. For now, let it be within us alone. By the way, did you know I was shout-outed by Ant-Venom? You should definitely go check out his video on chat reporting if you didn't yet. Raising awareness is always a noble endeavor, so it was rather pleasant to see my work credited by such a big name, as well as know that people of his scale are just as concerned about the whole chat reporting thing as we are. So that's it. Stay safe, and I hope we shall meet once more.